How are we doing? How are we doing? Welcome back to the Jackwood Football Podcast. And here we go. Welcome to I think one of my favourite podcasts I do all year. Welcome back. It's going to be the final episode of the year as well when it comes to League One, or the final episode of the season, should I say. And I'm really, really excited to announce we're going to be ranking every single League One club's season for the 22-23 campaign. Like I said, I think it is one of my favourite episodes I do all year. I did it last season and it went down really well. It's really interesting. It gets a conversation going. It gets a real debate going and it's a lot of fun. I'm doing this live, but of course this will be going up as a video as well. So get involved in the comment section and in the live chat. But this is going to be hopefully quite fascinating. And like I said, it's going to cause a little bit of conversation in lots of different ways. I imagine we're going to see people disagreeing, agreeing, but hopefully in a good, detailed conversation style. That's what we're hoping for. Remember, we are going to be ranking every single League One club's season. That's right, with this tier list in front of you now. You can see we have our 5 tiers on the screen. The bottom tier, forget it even happened. Let's forget it. The one above from that, just quite poor, pretty self-explanatory. Bang average, it's bang average. Good season. And the top tier being the elite season. Who and which club will make that top tier? Of course, meaning they had an elite season. Get involved. Welcome, by the way. Welcome to everybody that's tuning in. You are indeed a great communicator and worthy of a great support. Good luck from an Ipswich fan from Texas. I mean, Mark, that's very, very kind of you. Thank you very much for tuning in. That is fantastic that you're here and hopefully you do have a good time and you get involved in the conversation, Mark. That's what it's all about. Jacob says, evening, Jack. How are you doing, Jacob? Hopefully you are well. Joachim says, hello from Sweden. How are you doing, my friend? Hopefully you are having a good evening or Swedish time. That can't be too much different because, of course, it is a European country. So I don't know the time difference there. But if it is evening, I imagine it is that type of time, then hopefully you're having a good time, whatever it may be. Wardy, good evening, sir, says Jake. Jake, how are you doing? Hopefully you're well and welcome to the stream. Right, let's get straight into it because we've got lots to talk about. We can't really mess around because, like I said, 24 teams and I want to speak and have a good chat about all 24 clubs. So let's get straight into it, beginning with Accrington Stanley. Of course, the side that got relegated under John Coleman this season, and we've been speaking about Accrington quite a lot, about really how solid they've been, and they've been really punching above their weight over the last couple of years. John Coleman, his experience and the way that we know he can ooze out of a squad with not a great deal of quality, but always can pick those, great players, including the likes of Sean McConville, and get those numbers. And you look at Sean McConville's goal contributions over the last couple of years. They've been fantastic, and a big reason why Accrington have been punching above their weight and causing problems for a long time. I used to call them the banana skin type of team, where they really did cause problems for the bigger clubs with more support, if you like, of the clubs trying to hit the top end of the League One table. Accrington always used to cause problems for them. So I think this season it was a real disappointment. I think when it comes to Accrington, there is only one tier we can put them in, and that's probably going to be the bottom tier, and that's let's forget it happened, or let's forget it. I think Accrington fans will forget it happened. I think their summer recruitment last summer was not good enough, losing the likes of Colby Bishop, and then the season before losing Dion Charles in the January, not replacing them. We heard from John Coleman in an interview that they did have a bigger budget and they just didn't spend it in the way that they should have done. Of course, we're not going to be talking millions of pounds, but compared to Accrington over the last couple of years, and I come back to the Sean McConvilles, you need somebody, and you can't really rely on those numbers. You need somebody else that can make up those different outputs, and goals with Dion Charles and Colby Bishop and the McConvilles really weren't there this season, and a big reason why I think they were relegated. So a big rebuild in the summer, I imagine, and probably does need to happen, but when it comes to ranking their season, I think they probably will forget it happened, or want to forget it happened, but learn the lessons from that as well. Please make sure if you're watching this live, you leave a like. We've got 50 people watching right now. If you haven't left a like, please do so, because that really does push it out to the people watching, gets recommended, and then we can really give it a chance to hit the algorithm and more people can get involved in the conversation. That would be fantastic. Let's speak about a couple of these chats coming in. Accrington, give me your thoughts. We'll move on quite swiftly. Like I said, we've got lots to get through. Enjoyed watching all your videos this season. Very entertaining. As a Wednesday fan, I'll try and keep active. Good luck to Oxford next season, says Paul Keywood. Paul, that's very, very kind of you. Are we counting cup competitions? Brandon, I'm glad you said that. No, this is a purely League One tier list. So this is not going to be taken into consideration the Papa John's Trophy. I know Bolton fans will be hoping that maybe that could be pushed up and help you be pushed up the tier list. Unfortunately, this is going to be solely League One. naturally, I think Bolton have had a good season across the board, but we'll come to Bolton later on. Ryan says, can't get enough of you, Jack. Ryan, that is too kind, but I mean, I feel sorry for you if that is the case. But of course, Ryan, hopefully you're having a good day. We'll have a chat about an algorithm, don't we, Jake? We do. We absolutely do. It's really important that we can get that out to the people watching at home and watching wherever they are. We've got Texas, we've got Sweden. It's amazing. Thoughts on Port Vale? We'll come to Port Vale in just a second. AB7. We'll be ranking them, of course, as well. Let's go to Burton Albion. Burton Albion. Where are we going to put Burton? Of course, stayed up. This is quite an interesting one. Up for debate, I think. Burton fans, if we have got any Burton fans in here, that'd be amazing. If you're not a Burton fan, try and get in this chat and give me your thoughts of where you would put Burton. It's difficult. I mean, at the start of the season, it was looking like they were destined for relegation, and therefore a bottom tier probably would be the destination for them. But I'd probably, in the end, put them in good season. I think they probably have had a good season in the end, maybe bang average. But I think staying up was the priority. And at one point, that looked like it wasn't going to happen. And Dino did a fantastic job of allowing that to happen and Burton to compete again in League One. And really, if you look at expectation, this is really important because when we do this, you sort of go, it's not going to just be a league table. We're not going to put all the relegated clubs in the bottom tier because they got relegated. We might do it naturally because that is just the feeling around that club. But that isn't how it's going to work. We're going to see teams being good season. They don't finish in the top 6. They don't even finish in the top 10. It's about expectation. We're looking at what they wanted from the campaign before it, how it panned out. I mean, the recruitment and how that worked out and if that massively impacted the way that the season went for them, whether or not, I don't know, the expectation did align with the outcome. And that's important as well. Are they a club that did spend a lot of money and were successful? Are they a club that didn't spend a lot of money and still were successful? All of these different factors are really important. So with Burton, it probably is good or it's bang average. The reason why good is slightly high up is because they didn't finish sort of in the top half, if you like. So we are maybe going a little bit too over the top on there. So the top goal scorer as well, says Brandon. And they did better. I think they did loan him back in, didn't they, in the January from Ipswich. But either way, for a large part of the season, he wasn't there. Quite poor category, says Joshua. Can't wait to get a Forest Green one. Yeah, I think that's going to be pretty straightforward. Let me know. We've got 49 people in there right now. Don't be afraid to give your thoughts because that's going to make a real difference. We might even do a poll as well later on if there are some quite difficult decisions to make. But I'm probably going to go with, it's difficult. So the top bang average, it probably is bang average. But it could be a good season. We'll come back to that. I'm happy to put it in bang average because I don't know. I think it probably is solid. Bang average is sort of like a solid tier. So, and it has been solid. So I'm going to put them there. Right, Portsmouth next. Johan is straight in there speaking about Portsmouth and where he would put them. Pompey bang average, he says. I don't think it's bang average. I think it probably is just quite poor for me. I think when you look at expectation, this comes back down to expectation. And although they did finish in a high position, as an example to Burton, you look at what Portsmouth want to do, and at one point what it looked like it could be in those early stages. I'm lucky enough to speak to Tom on a regular basis, and he gives me a real feeling of how they're feeling, if you like, as a fan base and how they look in terms of that emotion towards the foreseeable as a Pompey fan and how things maybe aren't looking as good on the pitch as they should be and how they'd expect. And also the fact that they're not working with a gigantic budget, but bigger than a lot of people in League One. And we expect that spending to continue. They'll be hoping that spending does continue going into this summer. But looking at the previous window and the previous season, I think it's just been quite poor. I think it has been just quite poor. And I'm probably going to put them in there. Nat says, good evening, Jack and the chat. Good evening to you, Nat. Hopefully you're well, my friend. Curious as to your thoughts on the teams who went down from the Championship and the teams who are promoted to Division 2 later in the show. Perhaps, Mark, we can come to that. I think that would definitely be one. Certainly for going into next season. Like I said, this will be the last one for a little while. I'm going to go on a short break and sort of restock, refuel, and then make sure we're in the right frame of mind to go again because it has been quite a full-on season. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been great fun. The content has been more than... I mean, it's just been unbelievable in terms of the support that I've received from it. So I think it's time to restock a little bit, and then we certainly will go again. Thoughts on us, Charlton have put an 8 million price tag for Leeburn. I think we'll come to Charlton later on, Joanne, but 8 million seems a little bit steep for a League One player. I know he's young, I know he's exciting, but that seems slightly over the top. I probably would look at, I mean, for a League One player, you can't be looking, I don't think, more than 5 million maximum. Probably even say 4 million. I know he's young, I know he's exciting, but we'll come on to that. I don't think you can sort of say, can't give him a price tag that big, I don't think. I think, to be fair, Charlton probably would accept a £5 million bid if we're being totally honest. I might be wrong, but I think you can invest that in so many different ways, maybe 6 million maximum. Anyway, we're getting into conversation that doesn't really matter too much. Let's go to Cambridge United. Of course, just stayed up on the final day. It was a miracle on the final day. One of those stories that you look back on and go, wow, that was a miracle in some ways, because they were destined to go down for a large part of the season. We thought Mark Bonner's second season syndrome was going to kick in and they were going to get relegated. In the end, of course, they weren't relegated. So it was really important that in the end they did stay up. In the end they did stay up, and they made sure that they will be going into the season. They need to learn a few lessons. They can't be dragged into relegation battle again, because on another season they could easily have been relegated. I'm not taking anything away from that, but I think what we saw from Cambridge this season was they stuck at it. They learned a really good lesson about staying loyal to a manager and staying loyal to a manager in Mark Bonner, who provided great success over 2-3 years. You look at them getting into League One and then staying in League One in their first season, and then of course now in their their second season in League One. They've been really, really not fortunate, because they've worked for it, and I think we saw some really key elements in them staying up. But of course, by the skin of their teeth, they remained a League One side going into next season. So that does change things a little bit. So how do you look and how do you calculate a tier for Cambridge when, of course, look, they were very nearly relegated, but in the end, they did a fantastic job. While Barnsley fan here, I think we'd have an elite season. Great show. So Sean will come on to Barnsley in just a second. Great. Thanks for your impact. Mark Bonner updates, says Jake. Yes, Mark Bonner, he's doing fine. I can tell you, Mark Bonner is doing fine. They won't want to forget about the final day, so I think quite poor. Good evening, says SHD. How you doing? Nat, how's he coming to Wednesday on loan? I think that is a Twine chat as well. Of course, the Burnley, but ex-MK Dons player that did fantastically well in League One. Yeah, I think it probably is poor. I think when you look at their entire season, and we don't sort of look at short-term bias or recency bias, it's important to look at the entire campaign. And you look at Cambridge, it hasn't been fantastic. It was a final brilliant outcome, but you look at their entire season, there were really difficult moments. And like I said, on another season, which I don't like using that as an example, but on another season, they could have easily have been relegated. But of course, it's what it's all about, winning your games, and MK Don slipping up and swapping positions and them staying up in the end. That's that's fantastic for Cambridge, and I think they definitely deserved it when you look at their principles of staying loyal to a guy that provided them great success, and now they're reaping the rewards of that. And now, of course, got to go again and make sure they don't get dragged into it once again next season. Let's move on to Plymouth. Brandon says, do we even need to talk about Plymouth? All you need is common sense. Brandon, I think you're probably right. I think the conversation, we could keep talking about Plymouth all night, but look, they're a fantastic blueprint, I think, for football clubs that don't have enormous budgets, and they have been very, very, again, intelligent, very, very clever. They know a system, a recruitment strategy that clubs at a high level like Brighton, that Brentford are using, and that model of going down the statistical route and making sure you're recruiting players that, again, are young players that they can grow and also can have a sell on, but also creating a quite unique team spirit. And I think we've spoken about Plymouth quite a lot, and team of the season was quite an interesting conversation with Plymouth, because there's a bit of a frustration that Plymouth weren't having as many players in there. But I think the reason for that was star players, maybe not as many. They had fantastic players, I'm not saying that, but star players maybe a little bit less than the likes of Ipswich and Wednesday to an extent. But in terms of team spirit and a coherent idea and philosophy and system that Steven Schumacher really, really got going and ticking across that football club, that can't be argued with. So I think elite season for me is where Plymouth should be and where I'm going to put them. They won the league. They're in the Championship next season. There isn't too much to debate about that whatsoever. Colin says, for a club at the size, they've done phenomenally well. EFL trophy aside, yeah, I think, look, solely looking at League One, yeah, they had a bit of a nightmare at Wembley, but we're not looking at that. We're looking at what they did in League One, and what they did in League One was simply phenomenal, as you just say there, Colin. I agree with you. Right, let's move on to Cheltenham, because Cheltenham are, again, very, very similar in the fact that I think it's been a good season for Cheltenham. I do. Again, it comes back down to expectation. It comes down to what we thought Cheltenham were going to be and where we thought they were going to be at the start of the season, and that was a relegation fighting football club. And really, they stayed up comfortably, and in the end, quite early on. At the middle of the season under Wade Elliott, I think we thought that he was going to be one of the earliest managers to get sacked. In the end, that wasn't the case, and he stayed. And once again, similar to Cambridge, and there's a bit of a running theme here, that clubs staying loyal to managers and sticking with them, maybe when things look like they inevitably can't get better, you show that loyalty and you do stick with them. And for me, that's really, really important. And I think we've seen there is a clear pattern here. The clubs like, I know it didn't work for Accrington, but you look at the likes of MK Dons, they went through 2 managers and they got relegated. Forest Green went through 2 managers, maybe you could argue 3 because Rob Edwards left at the start of the season. I know it wasn't in their power, but I know Ian Buchner was sacked. Who else got relegated? Morecambe. I guess they stayed loyal, but it didn't really work. So look, it's not a constant pattern. It didn't work for everybody, but the clubs where it made a difference at the key moments. Cheltenham are a brilliant example, and Cambridge are a brilliant example. And 2 clubs actually were very, very similar last season. This season, a bigger gap, of course, and Cambridge just staying up. But I think with Cheltenham, they've done very, very well. I think it's a good season for Cheltenham. I do. People might agree with it and say I'm being too generous, but I think you look at where they want to get to and where a lot of people thought they were going to be. I think that's a very comfortable position, and they were safe really early on. I worry with the likes of Alfie May potentially leaving in the summer. That does look inevitable, and I think making sure you recruit in the right areas and replace the quality of Alfie May, because he did provide some very, very good individual moments, and I think moments that single-handedly played a massive part in that. But we're not looking at the future. That's for next season. You look at this season, you can't argue. They've been very, very good and provided some fantastic and important results that's kept them in the league. I'd say now comfortably in the end. Cheltenham deserve a great level of credit, says Colin. You forgot they're in League Two not long back. Exactly. Was it 2 seasons ago? They got promoted ahead of the start of last season. So, yeah, I agree. I think you look at where they want to get to, which is be comfortable in League One. They're building some really solid building blocks in that sense to make sure that does occur. I'm a Burton fan. I'd say that we had a good season, to be fair. Hopefully we can do better in seasons to come and not have these constant relegation worries. Toby Johnson, I'm sort of with you a little bit. I think maybe I've been swayed slightly by sort of different factors, but I would agree with you. You were in the good season. I just about drop you down to bang average. You'd be definitely at the top end of solid or bang average, whichever you're going to look at it. But I would sort of, probably push it to good season if I was being really generous. But I think if we're looking at maybe other clubs, that could be a late change for sure. Good season for Cheltenham, but think they'll go down next season. I think if they don't recruit, they don't replace, which again is a case for every club, but I think it's true. They could be dragged into it. But who knows? We'll come on to that, of course, next season. But this season, reflecting on it, I think it's been good. So, Fleetwood Town. Where are we going to do and where are we going to put Fleetwood? I think it's been good. I think it probably has been good. I don't know if Jake's still in here now and he speaks to Ben on a regular basis, and so do I. But I think it's been good for Fleetwood. I think you have to again compare to last season. I think it could slightly be edging towards bang average because I think they did have quite a deceiving transfer budget size back in January. You look at the likes of Stockley coming in from Charlton. You look at the likes of Jack Marriott coming in from Peterborough. These type of players that, of course, together, I think we spoke, we're probably around £300,000, £300,000, not £300. Not quite that cheap, but it's certainly a decent transfer fee for those 2 players for the size of Fleetwood, and a club that maybe financially are in a little bit of trouble going into next season, but at the time we're able to spend that type of money and fair play to them. It's good to see we've got that type of ambition from maybe not the huge football clubs in this league, and it's refreshing to see that clubs are being a little bit more, I don't know, not risk taking, but they're happy to spend that type of money on players and try and exceed and try and be aggressive and make yourself really competitive, really. And Fleetwood are a fantastic example, I think, of doing that in January. I definitely think in the end they were never in conversation for relegation, and last season they only stayed up by goal difference. So I think if you look at those different factors, I think it's been a good season. I don't think it's been an elite season by any stretch because they did have money to spend. Didn't Napper look good in Imp's shirt though, everybody? He did, but unfortunately, Jakey, I think he is a Fleetwood fan still. He might tell you otherwise. I don't know. I backed Fleetwood up top 12 at the start of the season. I don't understand people said they were going to get relegated. Josh, I'm actually with you there. I think I put them around. I got them spot on. I think I might have put them exactly 12th as well. Fleetwood are a hard-working team. Never an easy game against them. I think their home record hasn't been fantastic. Their away record was really good. Beat sides like Plymouth. I think it was Plymouth, wasn't it? Away from home, which is a fantastic result. We know how good their record at home park was, Plymouth. So that was a fantastic position to be in. But I think it's been a good season. Not an elite season because I did have money to spend, but I think a good season. Can we agree on that? I think I don't know. It's up to you. Hopefully we can. Right, let's go to Forest Green. Should we touch on this for much longer than 30 seconds? I think we know where they're going to be, and that is let's forget it happened. I don't think Forest Green are going to be in any other tier than the bottom tier. Look, they gave it a go. They're not a gigantic club that maybe had expectation to stay in the league. They've got money to spend. I think their owner, is willing to pump a little bit of cash in there, but of course, massive issues over the summer when it comes to a turnover that couldn't really be resolved, and then the manager leaving as well, Rob Edwards, then sacking a manager, like I previously said, in the middle of the season, and then never really getting a rhythm, never getting a good string of results together. And we saw that when that didn't happen, they fell apart and continued to fall apart the entire season. So Duncan Ferguson, I think going into next season, League Two could be a really nice reset. He can look at the squad and he can assess the squad now. He's had time to do so, and then build a League One promotion squad. That'll be the aim from his point of view and Forest Green's point of view. But League One, and looking at their season that just happened, look, there wasn't an expectation, I don't think, really of being maybe a hope, I think, and maybe a sneaky fee, and they could do it. But in the end, it wasn't possible. Their squad just wasn't strong enough. And of course, they did in the end get relegated pretty comfortably. And yeah, let's forget it happened, I think. Jake says they'll bounce back, though, automatics for them comfortably, I think. I agree, Jake. I think right now where Duncan Ferguson is, that is about rebuilding and creating a squad that's able to go again, and assessing it now, because he's had time to look at the players that he doesn't think have that ability to play in a side that Duncan Ferguson wants to create, which we imagine is quite an aggressive side. If you look at what he's wanted from clubs that he's been a caretaker manager of, like Everton, and also what he was like, of course, as a player as well. And what we actually saw in glimpses at Forest Green when he was in charge last season. Yes, they did beat us, though. They did beat Sheffield Wednesday, but unfortunately for them, that was a one-off. They beat Brandon. Don't think they actually beat Brandon personally, but they did beat Bolton as well, of course, as well as Brandon does say. Right, let's go to Oxford United then. Where are we putting Oxford? I think, look, I'm pretty comfortable in saying this might be a little bit biased, but I think I'm pretty happy in saying, should we just forget it? I want to forget it. I don't want Oxford United season to be remembered. I want us to learn from the mistakes and learn from a disastrous season, but never speak about it again. And I think that's a pretty comfortable place to be, being an Oxford United fan right now. I don't want us to talk about it. I want us to swiftly move on. But like I said, learn the lessons. I think we need to have a really aggressive summer transfer window. I think we need to offload players already. We've been releasing a couple of players I think are rightly in that position to move on. The likes of Matty Taylor, who've been a fantastic servant to the football club. But I think where we want to get to and what Liam Manning wants, I think he said their sort of directions going forward didn't align. I think if you've got that, and that's something that comes up in conversation, it's time and probably best to sort of part ways. So I think Oxford, let's forget it happened. We didn't get relegated, thankfully, and this probably will be one of the only clubs that I put in there that didn't get relegated. But I think my emotional attachment to the season means that it's been disastrous, and the expectation of, once again, being a side pushing for the top six, which is something that we have been doing for the last 3 or 4 years. 3 years for sure, becoming and getting quite close in that period as well. It certainly did not happen and never looked like happening at all. Liam Manning is now in charge, and again, he's got a really, really good but important summer window that must be had. Let's move on. Should we just forget it happened and forget we even had to speak about it? We've got 72 people watching right now, which is fantastic. I understand, again, this is quite a video that hopefully does sort of is a bit of a long-term video. People watch it through the summer as well. So to get plus 70 people watching on a Wednesday night, I guess is fantastic. And also know as well, I forgot that the Sheffield Wednesday party and the what's it called? The open top bus thing is happening this time tonight as well. So we might be losing a couple of Wednesday fans that would normally be tuning in live. But if you are watching right now, please make sure you do either like and subscribe. It gives it a chance to grow and get people watching live, and also in the future as well when it does go up as a normal video. Brandon, you've given me a good segue into Ipswich. Sam's done the same as well. I think it's an elite season. I know it's going to be an elite season. I think anyone that gets promoted, it has to be in that top tier. They were fantastic, pushed and chased by the likes of Plymouth and Sheffield Wednesday, but stayed really, really strong. The final 21 games of the season was simply phenomenal. Unbeaten for 21 games, I believe it was, for that run-in. They scored so many goals. It was 6-0, 5-0 everywhere you looked. They were absolutely fantastic when it comes to just the way they were relentless. They were relentless, and the style of play was fantastic. Kieran McKenna did have maybe a larger size of budget compared to others, but even still, you have to recruit that right. Clubs have had big budgets in the past in League One. Maybe not as big as Ipswich, but still big budgets, and they spent it wrong, and they spent it in the wrong areas. Ipswich, I think you can say, spot on when it comes to their recruitment and when it comes to Kieran McKenna implementing those players into a very, very unique, but I think fantastic style of play that just sees attack be on the forefront of everybody's mind, but also have a strong defensive record as well. Over 100 goals when it comes to their final standings and statistics, when it comes to their attacking output, I think it's fantastic. Of course, not champions, but that comes down to how good Plymouth were. together, though, promoted to the Championship. Fantastic stuff. And I think we know where they're going to be. Got quite a few people giving their thoughts as we go through this as well. Lincoln, the Robin Hood of League One. Ipswich are the only decent side I've seen this season. Interesting. 1 point off the Imps, though, poor from 2. I think it's a separate conversation. We spent what we got from those transfers. Ipswich embarrassment us at home as well. The big budget is coming in this window. I think we're going to see an even bigger budget. I think you're right, ITFC. I think we will now see that spending continue. I don't know whether or not the financial fair play rules might be a little bit stricter in the Championship, especially when you look at how much they spent in League One. In a weird way, I think they're tighter in the Championship than they are in League One in a strange way. There's more eyes on that. I think next season, though, when you look at that Championship, they're going to need to spend. Of course, I think right now, if you put them in the Championship, they probably would just about survive. But I think when you look at what they want to get, well, no, maybe not just about survive. I think they would comfortably survive. But if you look at their ambition that we hear from fans and from that football club, they've got to spend a little bit more money to be really, really competitive and do a Sunderland, if you like, next season. Right then, nearly 100 people. If we get 100 people in tonight, that would be incredible. Please leave a like, subscribe, share it, retweet it, go on the Twitter and retweet that as well. Get it out there and subscribe if you haven't already. I think we are, if I just double check now, I believe only 4 away from 3,400. We've just hit it. Thank you so, so much. That is fantastic. 5,400 subscribers. That is amazing. And yeah, if you haven't subscribed, be part of that next chapter to 5.5. Incredible stuff. Right then, Posh selling everybody at the and playing the academy. Shrewsbury, average, very good, up and down. Let's move to Shrewsbury as Brandon has already looked at that and looked to the next club. I think, yeah, it's either good or it's either good or average for me. I think it's either good or average. I think at one point it looked like it could be really good. It looked like it could be pushing into the top 6 or definitely being competitive in that top 10 mini league table that we saw for playoff contenders. I think they did spend money. They did spend money, and they've got, I think, a really good manager in Steve Cottrell, who, again, wants Shrewsbury to be really competitive. But you look at the seasons that they've had in previous League One campaigns, and they have been hovering above the relegation zone. And maybe we're now seeing a different Shrewsbury, and a Shrewsbury that are willing to, again, be really competitive and push and cause problems and sneak their way into those top 6 places. And maybe next season, that's where it's going to happen. I think we've seen differences when it comes to changes upstairs, when it comes to recruitment and directors and CEOs and bits and pieces like that. I think most importantly, a director of football change. It might not have been maybe a board member, but certainly a director of football change. And maybe that strategy is going to continue, or does that mean there's going to be more money spent, less money spent? I don't know. But even still, even last summer, they were picking up players, I think, in previous seasons Shrewsbury wouldn't be targeting, which was exciting. There are shambles off the pitch. Mind, I think you're right, Jake. I think that's what I'm sort of saying at a new director of football. Is that because they want to be a different side of the market, or is that because they're falling apart off the pitch? I don't know. Shrewsbury fell off at the end of the season, average season as Hazard. If they didn't fall off, it'd be a good season. Yeah, I think you're swearing me. I think it probably is bang average. I think, again, it's important to say it's bang average / solid. That is probably what we're looking at. So, Cottrell might leave, says L101 as well. So that's interesting. Yeah, I think, I did sort of see that. He looked quite emotional in his post-match interview, didn't he, after the last game of the season? And maybe that was a hint at something. I don't know. But let's have a little look at Wycombe next. Wycombe, I think I've just seen Brandon say good season. I don't know if I can fully get behind that. I think it probably is either good season or average. Like, again, quite a few of the clubs who've been saying it's quite difficult to sort of judge which one's which. But I'm probably going to go with average, to be honest. I don't think it's quite poor because, again, we have to remember Wycombe and we have to remember the fact that they aren't a side really. I don't want to be as respectful as possible. And I think Oxford fall in that same boat as well. Didn't really be when you look at the competitiveness or competitivity, as Tom doesn't like me saying as a word, which is a word officially from the English dictionary. I think you look at the other clubs in the league, Wycombe probably shouldn't be competing where they are. And when we look at the end of the season about playoff seasons and playoff potential finishers, Wycombe probably, when you look at the grand scheme of things, shouldn't be there. But because they have been there in the last couple of seasons and it's been even higher in the Championship, you naturally put yourself and put them in that area. I think it probably still is average, though. I think when our Ainsworth left, we saw Bloomfield come in. I'm willing to give him a chance. I think Wycombe fans are in that same place as well. But I think generally, with Wycombe under Bloomfield, they haven't been the same side. So difficult when it comes to transition because Ainsworth was just fantastic and there for so long. We know what he's all about. He's almost a fabric. When it comes to Wycombe, to him moving on was a massive blow for them. something you can't really blame him for. I think we saw that a massive opportunity for a club that he played for in QPR came knocking, and then he moved on. But when it comes to Wickham, post Ainsworth, they did fall off massively. And you look at the difference in results, it was quite a fall off. So average, if Shrewsbury are average, so Wickham. Average, compete well, but lost Ainsworth. Ainsworth left, and they did. I won't repeat exactly the word. I do want to try and get this monetized, but yeah, they did fall off, and it wasn't so good. Paraphrasing, ITFC, we had a decent season. I think you had more than a decent season. Ipswich fan there. Barnsley are very good. Let's move on to Barnsley in just a second. Let's put Wickham in a tier. I'm probably going to put them in bang average. I think I would. Look, I've got to be careful because I think Oxford and Wickham have got a little bit of a thing going on over a bit of a rivalry. Locationally, not really too much. I mean, they are quite close, but maybe on the pitch a little bit. But I'd say bang average. I think I would say that. I'm comfortable in saying they've had a bang average season, especially when you compare it to what they've been like. I thought their summer window was quite poor, though. And I remember saying that at the time. They didn't really recruit as well. Let's see what happens. I imagine quite a big turnover in the summer. Try and refresh it a little bit. They need some younger players in there. Their average squad, I think, is around 27, 28 years of age. Might even be 29, which is, I think, too old for an average size age squad. I think it needs to be much younger than that to be, again, refreshed and have a different idea and try and, like I said, have the same goal that they've had in previous seasons, but have a little bit new and have a little bit of, like I said, that idea of refreshment. Mehmeti leaving to Bristol City was something that I think we saw as a big problem. And once again, him and Ainsworth leaving, I think we did see that drop off there. Right, let's go to Barnsley. Just seen someone say we beat Barnsley. You did beat Barnsley if you are a Sheffield Wednesday fan. I was there. It was a fantastic, fantastic day when it comes to an atmosphere. Both sets of fans, I'll emphasise both sets of fans were great. Of course, Wednesday had more supporters there. I'm a little bit sick of the conversation on social media about, I'm not going to get into it. Not going to rant, but this idea of Barnsley not, letting everybody down with the amount of fans, I think is utter rubbish. I think when you look at, I think some people, I wasn't going to say I was going to go into it, but I think I naturally am now. I think, by the way, before I get into it, Barnsley, I think I was in the Barnsley end. They're fantastic. I think they were a great Wednesday, of course, in their numbers. We knew they'd turn up, and they did. Their voices, just the size of Wembley they took over was phenomenal, and the noise they made was second to none. But this sort of weird narrative of Barnsley, show the Barnsley end, there's missing seats. I think breaking news, everybody, but Barnsley aren't a as well-supported club as Sheffield Wednesday. Barnsley is much smaller than Sheffield. I know there's 2 clubs in Sheffield, but even still, half of Sheffield is still a pretty big area of the UK. So I think that weird narrative, I get it. I do understand this idea of fans. It's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine, a pet hate of this fan chat. Maybe it's because maybe because I'm an Oxford fan. That's what people will say, but I don't think it is that. It's coming from an idea of League One, 70,000+ fans for a League One game. I know corporate's there, but even still, 70,000 fans for a League One game for a playoff final is fantastic. If that was the third tier of Spain, you could play it in my local park. If that was a third tier game in Germany, you could probably play that in the back garden. Of course, not quite, but you get where I'm going with this. I think when you look at League One and that general day itself, it was fantastic. And Barnsley fans, I felt sorry for you. I did feel sorry for you. Barnsley are a town and a much smaller base as expected. Barnsley's elite. They did fantastically well and exactly what they needed to after getting relegated. The official account did cry about us having extra tickets, so basically sell out only 2 blocks on the entire top tier. I don't really know what that's on about. Decent team, decent season. Just be Barnsley must be an elite season. No, they didn't make it, but they had a good and but they were good and they fans in there. I'm sorry, I'm either reading this completely wrong. We're so good and their fans love them. Ipswich fan, good luck next season. Half of Wednesday fans are Barnsley. Forgive ref for sending going to get some referee chat here. Barnsley, I think we're a little bit hard done by when it comes to the referee decisions. But anyway, let's move on. That's a video going out. Sorry, has been out, the last one. On that game. Anyway, let's talk about Barnsley's season. I think it's so difficult. I think it's more than a good season. I think it is more than a good season. I think it probably is an elite season. If there was a T in between great season, they'd definitely be in that. Is it elite, though? Is it elite? Is it elite when you look at that squad? Didn't spend loads in the summer. Weren't really able to. Financial restrictions there, not massive ones, but financial restrictions to the fact that they didn't have loads of money in the bank to spend. In fact, I'm trying to remember. I could be wrong. Did they spend any money? They might have done, maybe an undisclosed fee, but I don't think they did spend a lot of money at all, if any. Elite, people are saying, only elite if they went up. See, is that the thing? It is elite. Should elite be restricted to only the clubs that get that get promoted? Free transfers and loans, Sean. 20,000. Yeah, I knew it wasn't a lot at all. It was either very, very little or nothing at all, which is fantastic. Finishing third to sixth is a crapshoot. Interesting, says Mark. Anything can happen, and I'm in favour of top three going up and bottom three going down. It's about money these days. I'm sure a lot of fans like the 3 to 6 playoffs. I'm a massive playoff fan, Mark. I am. I think it gives clubs and fans a chance to sort of have a little bit of believe a little bit, upsets. I think we saw the playoffs this season, not just in League One, but across the EFL, were just fantastic. I really did think they were incredible. Maybe the final between Barnsley and Wednesday didn't quite live up to the expectation of being a front-footed pressing side, but I think a game of football, but I think when you look at what's on the line, very, very different. And also, Barnsley did fantastically well after that red card, but again, I think the playoffs were great. 100% elite, says Josh. Bang average for Bristol Rovers. We'll come on to that. Elite could be for a team who gets promoted from League 2 and get into the top 10. Yeah, maybe. And I don't think that's going to happen this time, Colin, but I get what you mean. By the way, 100 people watching right now. That's fantastic. 100 people tuning in on a Wednesday evening. I understand. That is just phenomenal. Thank you very, very much. Please leave a like and subscribe and keep that pushing on now. We're on 5,400. We're now on 5,402. So that is simply brilliant. Thank you very, very much. 101. I love you all dearly. Right. Yeah, I'm torn. I'm really torn. I'm like, I'm edging. I'm edging towards it's definitely top in a good season. Is it elite season? That might be a poll, That might be a poll. In fact, let's do that. Let's switch to this screen here. How you doing? Let's go and make a poll right now. But while I'm doing that, Rovers fans or Rovers opinions, get in there right now. Where are we putting Bristol Rovers? Let's do a poll because we need some clarity here. I need some clarity because I think I'm comfortable in saying that they are certainly in between good season and elite season. But when it comes to engage with your audience, that's right, start a poll. When it comes to choosing, I'm really torn. 53 people have liked the stream. If you haven't liked it and you're watching right now, please do that. It's free to do so. It's that thumbs up button down there. You just hit it. That's all you need to do. And that is just phenomenal and helps me out more than you think it can or would by just doing a simple thing that's free and easy to do so. Right, let's put Barnsley. Let's just put Barnsley. Barnsley question mark. Should be aged by Barnsley. There is an E in there as well, isn't there? I think we're happy. I'm glad to narrow it down to 2. Good season and elite season. Ask your community. Right, that poll should be going up now. There it is. I can just see it pop up as we speak. So there we go. Good season or elite season. Get voting while we do that and while that vote takes place. I'm happy to put them in. Elite season for now, but we could change. That could change. I'm not going to vote. I don't even want it to impact it at all. But I'm going to have to vote so I can see the rest of the chat. I'm not going to tell you, actually. 47 people have given their thoughts. I can tell you, it's a strong start for one certain vote, but we'll come back to it. Let's move on to Bristol Rovers. Bristol Rovers, I think, by the way, Mouse Cannon just said, I'm your 50th like. Thank you very much, Mouse Cannon. I appreciate that. Bristol Rovers, I think it's probably bang average. I think it probably is bang average. I think they've got some fantastic players in that squad, like Sir Aaron Collins. We knew how well he did. I think he won the EFL Player of the Season, didn't he? He did a fantastic job, and his numbers, especially before the turn of the year and the calendar year, were great and pushed them into a fantastic position at one point, and then they did drop off slightly. In the end, I think we all knew that staying in the league was the most important thing, and they did do that, and very early on, maybe thanks to the likes of Aaron Collins and others, of course. But I'm going to go just quite poor for Bristol Rovers. I think it is just quite, bang average, sorry. It could be poor, but I think they did get promoted. That's important to mention as well. I think next season, if they don't have a strong start, I think if they're sort of hovering a similar position, sort of around, let's say, November time, Joe Barton could be sort of looking behind his shoulder or maybe looking up to the board and thinking, is my job secure here? Because, again, it comes down to, I think, this idea that Rovers have got very, very, very loyal, strong, but high ambitions as a fan base. I think they can take sort of a mess season when it comes to league position after promotion, but next season there's going to be sort of a real push. Plymouth have had a good season. I think a slightly better season than just a good season, Andrew. I'll be honest with you. If you go up and stay up, it can't be poor. Yeah, that's all right then. And that's where I'm at. Rovers bang average would have been good if their season ended at Christmas. January and February were woeful. Pleased to see Luca Hall's growing well. Rovers average, Bolton did well and they played decent against Shrewsbury. Great squad and staff, but the fans are terrible. Didn't charge much even at City as a better atmosphere. There we go. Give your thoughts on that. Very subjective, but there we go. Leroy England has just given us some amazing emojis. Leroy, hopefully you're right, mate. And yeah, you're definitely in the top tier for a Plymouth fan as well. We'll come back to the Barnsley one in just a second. Let's do Charlton, and then we'll come back to the Barnsley poll. If you're watching right now, leave a like. I know it's repetitive, but we've got new people always joining, so that's why I have to keep saying it. Fantastic stuff. Let's not keep going. Let's push on. Let's go to Charlton, who need to push on. That is a clever segue there, Jack, if I don't say so myself. Charlton do need to push on next season, but looking at last season, it probably is just a little bit poor, isn't it? It could be bang average. You look at their final league position, but it's important to mention league position, expectation, and also the gap. That thing called a gap, and points tally gap is important. Charlton might have been, in the end, a little bit closer to the top six than they were when Bangana got sacked. But when you look at the points difference, they were never really ever in for a chance of promotion or a top six position. So when you do look at Charlton in that way, I don't think we can sort of be too... I don't think we can sort of go higher than bang average. I think I'm probably going to put them in just quite poor. I think they had a disappointing summer. Although I say that, I like the players they were bringing in. They weren't spending any money, and they were very, very Ben Garner players. What I mean by that is ex-club Swindon, who I don't like anyway, but I saw the plan. However, they didn't work. Ben Garner didn't work, and then Dean Holden inherited a squad that, yes, he added in January, but wasn't really his players. And also, we saw Dean Holden improve that squad. I think going forward, Charlton are going to be in a really good place next season. I hope if they have a good window, not too much though, if they can not do as well as Oxford, that's okay. But you know what I'm trying to say there. Danny says I rate Holden, but quite a poor season. And also, Holden wasn't there all season. He inherited a Bengana squad which were low of confidence by a long shot. The squad wasn't his squad. It's going to be a real rebuild going into the summer, and we expect that, and we think that will happen. So yeah. And again, lots of off-field issues. They do need to get a new owner as soon as possible. Sangard wants to sell, we believe, but can't find a seller. You know, he's like picking a meal deal at the moment in Tesco's. He just can't quite do it. He wants to go with a selection that fits right for him, but they just don't have it in stock, do they? You know, he wants a BLT, but they've only got cheese and ham. Bad analogy, but stay with me. It's 7:45 on a Wednesday, and I'm trying my best here. I'm trying my best. You know, he wants to sell the club, but he doesn't know where to go with it. They're going in and then they just come out. He could be the one. No, it's not. Could that be today? No, it's not. They don't know. I think going forward, they do need stability. They need to find it quickly because summer is going to be important and they need a new owner to do so. So I'm going to go with just quite poor for Charlton, although it could be bang average. If you look at their last couple of seasons in League One, it is pretty average, but I'm going to stay and go with just quite poor for them. Charlton, Tom says bad season. Bon and goals should not be in the same sentence. Yeah, he didn't score many goals, did he, Bon? Joined on loan from QPR, if I'm not wrong. He did, and didn't really deliver, did he? Homeboy Charlton as well. Didn't do too much or anything. Without double extra time, Charlton Ipswich were the best finish to any League One game. Sorry, it was a free transfer, wasn't it? But it didn't ever happen. Charlton beat us 5-0. I know, very early on in the season. You couldn't imagine that, could you? Derby good. They're rebuilding. Stop in just a second. I think that is it. Without extra time, Charlton versus Ipswich was the best finish to any League One game. Yeah, if you watch the awards show with me and Tom, then, of course, you'll know that Charlton versus Ipswich did win game of the season. Again, it could have been close. Lincoln had a fantastic game between somebody that I've completely forgotten. I always forget. But I think that game, Charlton and Ipswich, was fantastic. I think it was 4 goals in extra in added time. Phenomenal. Probably what you remember Charlton for this season, unfortunately. Right, let's go to miss the actual game of the season. Yeah, I know, Jake, and I've forgotten who you played. It was 6-3. I don't know who you played. I've completely forgotten again. 6-3, says Jake. I know, but who did you beat? Derby, a good season. Had to rebuild their squad. We don't talk about that. Right, let's move to the poll. Let's sort Derby out. In the end, the poll has said 70. Let's end the poll. 79% of people said it's a good season. Barnsley, 78%, sorry, good season, 75 votes. It was Bristol Rovers, thank you very much, Bingo. 21% is elite season. I think we can say with 75 people voting, it's a pretty one-sided majority. It's a good season. Maybe we're looking at elite for only the club to go up. I'm happy to do that. Let's go good season. Right, let's power on. I don't want to spend too much longer than an hour of your time, so let's go. Let's do to Derby. Derby, quick fire. It's poor, isn't it? Look, is it poor? Is it poor? It's poor average. Derby, I'm in that sort of position where, is it poor? Because they had and do have some fantastic players that have played at a much higher division and high level in England. And again, at one point looked like it was going to be a top 6 finish. Paul Warne was brought in to be that know-it-all promotion League One manager that he's done with Rotherham. And he's done it Rotherham on multiple occasions and now is going to come in and do it. However, Derby, when you look at where they were at the start of the season, before all those players came in, they were in a lot of trouble and could easily have been completely removed as a club, which would have been disastrous. So you got those two things weighing up. They started with Liam Rosner, didn't quite go the way they wanted to. They had some decent results, but in the end, not really working. Paul Warne was brought in, and he was there to ultimately be, like I said, that know-it-all promotion winning guy. Is it average because they got so close? Because if they got in the top 6, you'd probably say good season. Can you drop down and miss a tier just by missing out by a point? Maybe. Let's come to you. Average was a total rebuild season. Derby, meh. Expected better. Bang average. Bang average. Bang average. People memories are so poor, says Colin. What do you mean by that, Colin? To be fair, due to no playoffs, I'd edge towards high average. If they finish one extra point and get off the player who we're talking about a completely different tier, Brandon, you're right. That's exactly what I mean. If they did get in the top 6, they'd probably leapfrog into good. Depending on how their playoff campaign goes, you go maybe even elite, but definitely good. Just because they missed out by a point, we're then looking at missing a tier. That feels harsh to me. High average, low good. I don't think it's good. I don't think Derby fans will go, that was a good season. They go, it was a meh season or disappointing season. For that reason, I'm going to go bang average. That answers it. To have Derby with us suggests it's been a good season. To have Derby with us suggests it's been a good season. Or for Derby, Jake, or you, Lincoln fan. To have Derby with us suggests it's been a good season. I think I know what you mean, but I might not know what you mean. Jay Cartwright's in it. Jay Cartwright completed it, mate. I mean, Jay Cartwright has completed League One. He says, I'd say average. I mean, Jay says average, so we go with Jay Cartwright. We all know that Jay Cartwright knows best, and he never lies. They nearly liquidated Jack. It's a good season. Look at what they had to deal with, says Colin. I think you're right. Again, you have to remember, though, that there was a bit of money, well, not money being spent, but a lot of good players being brought in that maybe in other days wouldn't have been in there. No, for Derby, they're on the brink of liquidation, and to complete the way, that's what you mean. And complete the way they did, it was very good. Exactly. Look what they were. Look where they are now. I think in the end, you probably would say it's been bang average. I don't know. Well, Jake's saying good. Jake's saying good. I think it is good. But if, let's say, Lincoln had gave him a Goljic, Horahan, etc., and they didn't get the top 6, you probably would go, is it great? Should we do it? I don't know. It's definitely top end bang average. Could be a poll. Should we do a poll? Let's quickly do a poll. Well, we do that poll. I don't want to spend too much time on it. When we do that poll, in fact, we're probably going to have an option here, aren't we? Let's just do good, average, or Derby? Question mark. Ask community. Move on. We'll come back to it. I'm going to put in bang average for now, but we can move on later on. Exeter. Let's go with Exeter. Where are we going to put Exeter? I think for me, it's been a good season for Exeter. I think it has. Again, we talk about clubs that got promoted into League One and have in the end been very, very solid, very, very secure, never feared relegation, which is really important. A club that I thought, I made a big mistake. They thought they were going to go down, but the likes of Giovanni Brown, I know issues now off the field that aren't good at all, but yeah, he did definitely step up. But the likes of Sam Nombe, the likes of Jay Stansfield, which is a fantastic romantic story that worked in a great way. Josh Keel, it's come and done fantastically well. Mitchell is a fantastic addition. These type of players, that type of squad to be very competitive and to deal with the likes of Matt Taylor, who got them into the league in the first place, leaving is a massive, massive blow. But Colwell come in and he kept it going. Disappointing and quite long winless runs at some times and defeat rows. Rows of defeats, if you like, that's a better way of putting it, for a long period of time have been a slight dent on it, but in the end, you say it's been good, haven't it? Yeah, it's been good, hasn't it? It's been good. Let's make sure it's good. If you haven't voted for Derby, get in the chat and vote for Derby. Is it good, average, poor? Let's see what things are saying. Very, very close. We'll look at the poll in just a second. Good season for Exeter. Good. Had to deal with the departure of Taylor and Giovanni Brown. Excellent Exeter. Small club punching. Good season. So glad Ipswich, Plymouth and Wednesday were all up in the end. Deserved because Stansfield was quality. Yeah, I think let's move on from that. No need to dwell on it too much, but in a good way. Not because I don't want to talk about it, but I think we've spoken quite a lot about Exeter. They have been brilliant this season. Definitely a good season for them. Right then, let's move on to Lincoln City. Jake's going to give his in-depth thoughts, and I know he will do in the chat. I'm pretty going to. I think I'm not just saying it. I'll wait for Jake to give his thoughts, but I'd go good. I would go good. If you compare it to last season, Mark Kennedy first job in England, first job, of course, first season as Lincoln City manager. He had that level of expectation with the fact that we were sort of intrigued to see how he was going to go and how it was going to happen. And in the end, I think he's done really well. They were a club that were really causing problems for some top teams in the league, and maybe teams below were sort of a little bit frustrating to play and sort of between Lincoln and them was quite a disappointing outcome for Lincoln, because if they'd beaten them, they could even be higher, and we could be talking about a season a couple of years ago where they were closer, but also remember, the top six and in the playoff final. But I think when it comes to rebuilding, it was a sort of a step and a transition season. I think Lincoln did really well in doing so. So I think it's been good. I think when you look at transition, it's been good. Surely you've got to quit. Surely got to chuck us in good. We've not lost to any of the top four. That's fantastic. That's interesting, Jake. I didn't know that. Lincoln, good season. Bang average, good season. MK Dons must go. Let's forget. We'll come on to that. They will, though. Breaking news. Never really pushed for the playoffs. No, but was that the expectation? Was that ever the expectation? Danny, I don't think it was. I think it was about about rebuilding. It was about transition and about, again, stripping back from the disappointment and the nearly relegation fears of last season, and then pushing and making sure that Mark Kennedy came in with some fresh ideas and something a little bit different. I think they're going to have to, once again, have a really good summer with Regan Poole leaving is a massive blow. But again, they know what they want to try and do, and that's push on and improve, and they've got building blocks there. They've got levels to improve on for sure, because if they were perfect, they would have been promoted. But that's not what we're saying. We're talking about a club that had to go through a bit of a difficult moment last season, and this season there has been a real improvement. Difficult moments, but improvement nonetheless. Did Lincoln not lose at home? I think they did in the end, didn't they? I think they lost with one game at home. They might have gone unbeaten. I think they did lose one game at home. How did they do after losing Jack Diamond? Pretty about the same. That talk about Norwich, we're going to come for you, Sean, and Ipswich fan getting excited. If they turned them draws to wins, they'd be up there for exactly lots of draws. They won the draw league, I believe, in the entirety. They won the most amount of draws of every club in England. Definitely in the the 4 tiers of English football. Lincoln were one of the toughest teams, especially when they were away from home, well organised and tough to break down. They lost twice at home to Peterborough and to Burton, twice at home. Lost to us. There we go. I agree. Bang average season for the Rams. Back to Derby, this is. Take it to them. We were barely a club at one point, and we need to push next season. Lincoln fans, top notch. MK Dons back where they should be, back where they belong, not being horrible. But it's true. Thank God they're getting relegated. Brandon not holding back there. I think let's forget it happened for MK Dons. A football experiment that we've been saying quite a long time that went very, very wrong. They had a disaster. They brought in a lot of players. The overload and the change in players and the amount of players was a disaster. It did not work. Liam Sweeting, of course, their director of football, or their sporting director, was in charge of that massive turnover. Of course, some things out of their control. They couldn't really help, except in bids for Scott Twine, those sort of size, and for Harry Darling. But the amount of players that came in, it was a disaster. It didn't ever work. It didn't gel. And it had to be a let's forget it season for them. They've got to rebuild. They've got a new manager. They went through 2 managers. I think if you go through more than 2 managers in a season, the chances are, and I mean, you've sacked 2 managers in a season, the chances are it's been a disaster. You've probably been relegated. And if you haven't been relegated, it's been very close. And you probably should forget the season. So I'm going to go, let's forget it for MK Dons. But I'm intrigued. Are there any alternative arguments to that? I doubt it. They lost 2 games once again, Peterborough and Burton. Oh, at least rent it, playing with Wimbledon next season. Yeah, there we go. MK Dons, let's forget it. MK Dons, let's forget it. Very consistent thoughts there. Let's forget it for MK Dons. Not a good season. If you do bounce back, then they're going to need to have a very good window, because that squad has got talent there, but it never gelled, never clicked in League One for sure. Steven says, who do you support? Oxford. I think you can see it there. Oxford United, unfortunately, this season wasn't quite a prouder. I thing to say, as you can see by the tier list. I'm an Oxford United fan. Wasn't a great season. Let's forget it, as you can see. Sheffield Wednesday. Oh, what a talking point. Sheffield Wednesday. I feel like a bit of a Sheffield Wednesday podcast. See, when you mentioned who do I support, a lot of people thought I'd be supporting Wednesday after the amount of content we've been producing on the podcast in the last couple of weeks. But we've been focused on their fantastic playoff journey. Of course, I'm Barnsley and Bolton as well, and Peterborough. But Wednesday have been flying through. In the end, they won the playoff final against Barnsley. I'm torn on us, but I'll go good season with the aim was the title. That is surprising. Wednesday elite, 96 points. Any other season would have been automatic promotion, probably even the title. Tough one, the smiley face. MK Dons, what a horror show from pushing him from promotion last season. Probably hoping for another top 6 finish and just a disaster. Says Robbie, it was a disaster. Lots of Wednesday fans giving their thoughts and streaming in with their thoughts right now. Yeah, Wednesday, it's got to be elite. I know good season, maybe they had that drop off, they fell off. It was well documented on this channel and across the Wednesday fan base and everywhere, really. They should have been in the automatic promotion places based on previous seasons, but they weren't. And the reality is, it's this season. And this season meant they weren't in those areas. Did they fall away and get caught up in maybe the excitement of being top of the table for a large amount of the season? Potentially. Maybe they did crumble under the pressure. However, pressure was definitely turned over in their playoff semi-final second leg to Peterborough, where they provided one of the best ever comebacks I've seen and one of my favourite games of football I've ever watched. And then against Barnsley, stepped up, maybe slightly fortunately with difficult decisions, but the referee that you'd say he got wrong. But even still, they're promoted. They're in the Championship. They did it the long way, the hard way, but they certainly did deserve it in the end. Record points total, record unbeaten run, record clean sheets, biggest playoff comeback in history to then win them. All the squad made up of frees and loans, giving Darren Moore the keys to the city. Elite. Can't argue with them. Glad we've gone up. Get them out of the way. Good riddance. Little kiss on there with Colin Yates. There we go. Colin is pretty happy they've gone. Maybe because it gives Bolton a better chance next season, I imagine. 23 games unbeaten, 96 points, playoff miracle. It's elite for me. As fans, we know Wednesday never do anything easy and never will. Well, you definitely didn't do it easy, but you did it in the end. Leave a like, subscribe if you're a Wednesday fan and excited about the fact you'll be playing in the Championship, very competitive Championship next season. 100% a red, should have been a penno. Yeah, that's where I am. 100% red card. I'd say, I don't know. Let's not talk about it now. Can't deal with it. I've had so much conversation about it. For me, it's definitely a penalty. Red card. I get it. Give it a red. Fine. I'm happy. So many injuries to deal with and still record-breaking season and ultimately promotion. Elite for me. Up the owls. More can forget it. Off the field looking like a dodgy. There you go. Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a elite season for Sheffield Wednesday. Derby, let's come back to that poll briefly so we can move on from Derby and have that. By the way, 50% on average. Hang on, let's end the poll. No. Yeah. Okay, interesting. Did I end the poll? I did end it in the end. Average for Derby, 50%. Good, 26%. Poor, 23%. 80 people got involved. 50% said average. Derby will remain in average. They were in average. That's what I was leaning towards. The people have given their thoughts. However, it could be good when we look at where they were at the start of the season. Right, 4 to go. Morecambe, let's power through. Morecambe, where are we putting Morecambe? Let's forget it. Should we forget it? Let's forget it. They gave it a go. Looked like at one point it was going to be a late push out of it, but it wasn't to be. And Derek Adams, was at the helm for that relegation. Disappointing for Morecambe, of course, because last season they just about did it and just about stayed in the league. But this season, too much. They bit off too much they could chew. And it does mean they are relegated. Let's forget it happened. Peterborough next, of course, at one point looked like it was going to be a playoff final. Could they not mess it up? Yes. Sorry. Could they not mess it up? No. Yes. Could they mess it up? Yes. You know what I'm trying to say. Good season. For me, it's good season. Jacob, of course, a very loyal member of the channel and also somebody who's in the Discord server as well. Join the Discord server, by the way, link in the description. Jacob says, bang average. For us, too many silly points drop. Looking very good at times, but far from consistent enough. If we made Wembley, it's a different story. Posh, quite poor with the squad they had. Scraped playoffs undeservedly and choked. I don't know if I can put them in just quite poor. They were destined for definitely missing out on the top 6, and especially when McCann left and Darren Ferguson got them in there. So no, it's been a good season. It's been a good season. Is it the perfect end of the season? Definitely not, but it's been good. Port Vale next. let's go. I think Port Vale, good season as well. I know we're powering through, but I don't want to sort of go longer than too much of an hour. But I will talk about Port Vale briefly. Good season. Again, similar to Exeter. Thought they were going to go straight back down. Definitely wrong in that. They definitely did provide a problem. Fearless mentality is something that I use with Port Vale such. On so many occasions, I think we saw Port Vale not be scared that they're in League One, which is fantastic. And I think the right thing to do, they just gave it a go. They really gave it a go. They took anybody on. And look, they did drop off. And in the end, of course, Darryl Clark did leave the football club. But I think in the end, they certainly did make it interesting. They beat some fantastic sides, home and away this season. Like I said, a slight drop off. But even still, they stayed competitive. They stayed strong. And they didn't get relegated. And that's the main thing. Port Vale, good season, exceeding expectations. Port Vale, very good. Heavy drop-off. Strange season for Vale. Yeah, it's been a bit strange. Good season for the first half. Second half of the season, sorry. There was a drop-off there. But in the end, I'd say it's been a good season. Right then, finally, let's move to the final team to rank. Bolton Wanderers. Where are we putting Bolton? Good season for Bolton. I think it's been good. I think, look, it could have been even better if they got through against Barnsley. I thought they were really disappointing against Barnsley in both legs, really. First leg, the home leg, it wasn't great. I didn't think they only really reacted when they went 1 goal down. And then the second leg at Oakwell, they didn't ever turn up. Playoff campaign, I'd say, let's forget about it. But their entire season, good season. I think they wanted to go up and they didn't do that, which is a frustration for them. By the way, David Burgos just donated $3 on Super Chat. David, thank you very, very much. That's very kind of you. And yeah, thank you very, very much, David. As a Sheffield Wednesday fan, I fancy Bolton and Posh top 2 next season. Good Bolton. Bolton, good season. Remember, we're not taking into consideration the EFL Trophy playoff spot. EFL Trophy. We are taking into consideration the playoff spot. Next season is absolutely massive. A lot of pressure to get automatics. Year-on-year progression needed once again. Plenty of movement in the summer. It was euros, not dollars. Sorry, that is my awful currency conversion rate. That is bad from me. By the way, Brandon, you didn't need to do that, Brandon. You didn't. £5 from Brandon. That is fantastic, Brandon. Thank you very, very much for that super chat. You didn't need to do that, Brandon. Thank you so, so much for that. Thank you for a great season. Brandon's been a fantastic member of our Discord server as well, which you can join. He's going to be with us next season, of course, but Bolton didn't get promoted. But I think it's been a good season. It's been a good season. I think they made a really good point. I think it was Brandon who said last season it was just try and sneak to the top 6. But again, they couldn't quite do it. It was sort of in the end just outside that area, sort of top 10-ish, wasn't it? And then this season, got into the top 6, definitely an improvement. But next season, now when you look at the teams in the division, where they're going to go from there. Hopefully for them, it's going to be in a high position and promotion at the end of it. Final thoughts then, because that is the final tier list. Give me your thoughts. Thanks, Jack. Drop your fiver and you rub it on. Well, sorry. Thanks, Jack. Drop your fiver and you rub it on. We're still here. Amazing, Brandon. Thank you very much. Right, this is the final tier list that the chat and I've put together. Let me know in the comment section down below. To be honest with you, I know the chat are going to give their thoughts in, but that's probably what I know it's easy to say now, but that's probably what I would go with. I'm pretty happy with that. A few areas that could be changed. Maybe you could put Barnsley in that top tier, but the poll decided that has to be only elite if you got promoted. Lincoln could be bang average for me, maybe. Sorry, Jake. Peterborough. I'm happy where they are. There it is then. Jack, can I buy you a pint? Says Peter Parker's Pizza Face. I mean, right now, Jack, I saw you in Tesco smelling some washing up liquid. You might have done. I don't think I've bought washing up liquid recently. So, I don't know. Maybe. I don't think I did do that. I don't think I smelt it in the shop though. Anyway, thank you very much. You can buy me a pint. Not maybe right now, because we're not in a pub or in a shop. But yeah, if you ever come across each other, then that'd be much appreciated. Right then, let's move on to ranking and deciding and going through the final tier. Let's forget it. Accrington, Forest Green, Oxford, MK Dons and Morecambe. Just quite poor. We've got Pompey, Cambridge and Charlton. Bang average. Derby, Burton, Shrewsbury, Wickham and Bristol Rovers. In good season, Barnsley, Cheltenham, Fleetwood, Exeter, Lincoln, Peterborough, Port Vale, and Bolton. And in the top tier, the upper echelon, you can't get higher than that. The 3 promoted sides, the top 3, when you look at the league table as well. Fantastic. Good luck next season in the Championship to these 3 clubs. Of course, Plymouth, Ipswich, and Sheffield Wednesday. That is the final tier list. Hopefully, you did enjoy it. Hopefully, yeah, you had a good Wednesday evening chatting about ranking every League One club's season. This will be going up as a video as well, so stay tuned for that. Hopefully you can watch that and leave it a like and give your thoughts in the comment section. That would be amazing. Have a very good summer. I won't see you for a couple of weeks. I've got a very special video coming out that isn't League One related in the summer, but until next time, I'll see you in, emotionally, probably around July, start of July, end of June. I could pop back and surprise you. Could be a little bit later. I haven't fully thought, but it's probably going to be the end of June, early July. Thank you very, very much. Good luck to Wednesday. This is my opportunity for the final time to say this season has been amazing for me on a personal level. We started on 1,000 subscribers going into this season and going into this episode. Sorry, not this episode, going into this set of episodes for this season. And we've now ended it on 5.4 plus 1,000 subscribers. And that is just mind-blowing. I know it's quite a cliche thing to say, but it is fantastic. So that support does never go unnoticed. To get over 100 people on a weekday show ranking on a tier list video for League One, again, still blows my mind to this day. The numbers recently, I know it's not about numbers, it's about how much I enjoy it, and I enjoy it enormously, more than you can imagine. But also, if nobody watched it, it wouldn't be as fun. And people are watching it fantastically. And I love you all. Brandon has said, £2 donation. Thank you very much, Brandon. You don't need to keep doing that. Oxford are going to win the league in 2023-24. If we do that, Brandon, I'll donate money to you because I'll be extremely excited. Keep it up. Wednesday are going up, but I'll still be tuning in. Even though we're champions now, I still check in with you, show, mate. Enjoy the break, Jack. Only just dropped in. Says Daniel. Daniel, you've missed it. I'll be honest with you, Daniel. You have missed it, but you can go back anytime and watch it. Or watch the video. It goes up as well. Someone needs to give you a job in TV. Mason says, thank you very much. Hopefully that break might happen sooner rather than later. I don't know. But yeah, I'm going to enjoy my break. It's going to be, like I said, probably about a month or, well, about a month and a bit. Switching off. Like I said, there will be a video, a very, very exciting video coming out in the middle of that is, again, not League One related. But yeah, have a good summer. I love you all. Thank you very much. Stay safe. Have a good summer. If you're going on holiday, if you're not going on holiday, enjoy whatever you get up to. And yeah, stay very safe. I want to see as many of you here in July. Lots of content planned. Of course, I can't wait to start the season again, but I do need a little bit of, I think we all do, a bit of a football break, football cleansing session, and then we're ready to go again. I take care, everybody. Thank you very much. I love you all, and I will see you all very, very soon. Take care, everybody.